Black Ops 3 was a great game. There's a huge caveat to that statement. Black Ops 3 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC was a great game. And I'm sure a lot of folks aren't aware of this, but Call of Duty Black Ops 3 released for more than one console generation. It was the last official mainline COD release to receive a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 edition, or at the time known as the last-gen version of Black Ops 3. And there's been a lot said about these versions, mainly that they're stripped down, poorly ported, and poorly executed versions of one of the most popular and well-loved Call of Duty releases of all time, and some of the goofiest, weirdest, clunkiest zombies experiences that we've ever gotten. They're also the only technical port of a COD Zombies game that got DLC. Black Ops 1 for the Wii, another low-quality port of a mainline COD game for a low-power console, only ever received one single map, the game's launch map, Kino der Toten. Black Ops 3, its spiritual successor and low-power, low-budget, bizarro world counterpart, received 3 maps. The game's launch map, Shadows of Evil, the game's pre-order bonus map, The Giant, and the game's first DLC map, Der Eisendrock, which meant that in this version of the game, you could theoretically complete multiple Easter eggs, go for multiple high rounds, experience tons of wonder weapons, and see some of the otherwise most visually appealing maps in the entire game, albeit boiled down to some weird, mushy, blurry, foggy slop that's excessively floaty, uncomfortable to play, locked to 30 FPS, and quite evidently from the gameplay on screen, it's a very janky version of this game. Zombies swipe at you with what feels like a mile-wide hitbox, movement is very stuttered and almost arthritic at times, and the gunplay feels sluggish, and not to use this word a second time in one paragraph, but it's very mushy and weak. And yes, just for the record, this is me playing. I went out of my way to dust off my old PS3, order a copy of this godforsaken game on Amazon, hook up a capture card, and get this gameplay footage myself. I'm not the worst zombie player in the world, but I was terrible at this version of the game. It's just not good to play. Now, with all that effort put in, I want to talk briefly about this version of Black Ops 3. And not to brag, but I now have 17 minutes of experience playing this version of the game, so I'm pretty sure I'm an expert on the topic. Now, first, I want to give a bit of background. The 360 and PS3 version of Black Ops 3 was not developed primarily by Treyarch. Treyarch and Activision outsourced to a partner dev team, Beenox. Beenox are a subsidiary studio that lives under Activision, and their primary claim to fame before doing Call of Duty ports was making officially licensed movie video games, like 2007's The B-Movie game, 2009's Monsters vs. Aliens the game, multiple Spider-Man games, a bunch of Skylanders, and some other ports and things along the way. Once they got acquired by Activision, they mostly pivoted to being a support studio for the main COD developers Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and Sledgehammer, and later Raven Software, which in itself is a support studio of the other three. Beenox effectively are the support of the support studios, basically a friendly helping hand, not a mainline developer, and that's extremely apparent in this version of Black Ops 3, the one that they delivered for the old-gen consoles. Now, I'm not trying to knock the studio down for doing with the hardware that they had in front of them what they could. They truly did deliver an astonishingly capable version of this game, considering they were trying to backport a 2015 next-gen console video game, all the way back to hardware released in 2006, 2 years before the Obama administration. They really were extremely constrained, and for the product that they delivered, I can't fault them that much. But on the other hand, the product they delivered is really bad, and that's not their fault, it's the fault of Activision wanting to backport Black Ops 3 to old-gen consoles in the first place, a move that seemingly was purely motivated by a weird grab at a still non-zero market share of gamers that hadn't yet picked up the generation's new PS4 and Xbox One consoles that just launched 2 years prior, but without fully taking into account that the games being developed for these new consoles were taking full advantage themselves of the hardware they were meant for. So trying to port these games backwards to consoles that these days couldn't even load a single Wikipedia page, you could imagine what the end result was always going to look like. And that all being said, Beenox have contributed to some very good ports of Call of Duty in their modern titles. They ported the Windows versions of Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, and those are perfectly good games that are indistinguishable from their console counterparts. They're fully feature-filled and often have even more features than the console versions. They're cross-compatible, which means they're exact one-to-one copies. But their Black Ops 3 port is not that. It's not even close to a one-to-one copy. Let's talk about what this game's missing. This version of Black Ops 3 doesn't include the campaign mode. It doesn't include the gunsmith. It doesn't have the game's custom weapon configurator. It doesn't include custom emblem building or custom weapon designs. It doesn't include any additional gobblegums via Newton's cookbook. It doesn't have theater mode. It's missing minor Easter eggs in its zombies maps. It's missing the ability to look down at your player and see your legs and feet. It's missing any of the other main menu operators, meaning you are forever stuck as Shadows of Evil's Jack Vincent in the forest menu for zombies. It never received any DLCs past Der Eisendrock, meaning we have no last-gen versions of Zetsubo, Garad Krovi, Revelations, or any of the Zombies Chronicles maps. And it's even missing the Treyarch logo in a lot of places. But that one's fair. This is really only Treyarch's game in content, not in development, so of course their logo's been stripped pretty much anywhere Beenox can slap theirs or put a generic over it, meaning the loading symbol between maps and menus, usually an animated Treyarch logo, is just a loading circle. And now these things are less missing features and more weird but noticeable differences, but I do want to talk about them. A lot of the animations are clunkier and floatier, weapons are are often meshing through the player's hands. Reload animations have been remade from scratch in a lot of places, meaning they're entirely different from their modern console counterparts. Wonder weapons behave somewhat differently in that their effects, such as particles and lighting effects, are entirely missing or dulled down. Entities around the map are significantly more noticeable due to texture quality reduction and a weird lighting system that has significantly more emphasis on highlighting in the very few animated textures this game can handle at one time, and so much more. And of course you would expect an older gen version of a game to be a watered down version, but looking at games like Ghosts, the first modern gen console release for PS4 and Xbox One at the time, its last gen counterpart for PS3 and 360 was the exact same game, just with a bit less visual fidelity. And the same story goes for Advanced Warfare for the most part, minus a few post-launch pieces of content like weapons and some animations here and there. Black Ops 3 on the other hand is basically barely a quarter of the game it's advertising itself to be. It features an entire missing mode, tons of removed content, a significantly visually worse game, and virtually no post-launch content at all. It released as a quick cash grab for players stuck on old generation hardware, it got them in the door, and it left running with a cartoonishly evil bag of money with a $sign painted on it. From a zombies perspective, this game's not actually half bad. You do get 3 maps. You get mostly complete versions of the game's most popular maps, Shadows, the Giant, and DE. You get to experience, on a budget, the best of Black Ops 3, and if down the line you choose to pick up a modern console version of the game, you can experience the rest. And of course, a more visually appealing version of what you've already seen on your PS3 or Xbox 360. You can still participate in this year's COD release. You can still follow along with the storyline yourself, albeit in a little bit more of a cursed fashion. And you can even pat yourself on the back for owning a very unique copy of the game that most other players will never experience firsthand, but it comes with a lot of drawbacks and limitations. For instance, look at the gameplay on your screen right now. This is actually somehow a pretty good representation of the game, one giving it a bit more credit than it deserves. For most players of this version of the game, it was an extremely dull, watered down, almost felt like it had a gray fog filter over the entire thing, and it performed terribly. But 11% of the game's player base was on this version. Of the main game's 6 million first week sales, over 600,000 of them were on last gen consoles. So clearly it was in Activision's best interest to still sell this game for these systems. But very quickly after, sales fell off a huge cliff, so why bother continuing to support it past its first DLC? And that's exactly what Activision did. The game rose from ashes it had no business rising from, proved itself capable enough to sell a little bit, it made Activision some money, and it duped some gamers out of their hard-earned cash by giving them a half-baked version of the game that all of their friends with modern consoles got to enjoy in its fullest. It rightfully so died a very quick and uneventful, unspectacular death, and now it lives on in most people's mind in the most pure form possible, through the last-gen Richtofen meme. And you know what? That's exactly where I'm going to leave this game too. It's not good, it really shouldn't exist, but at the time, from a business standpoint, purely focusing on meeting your market share where it still exists, Activision clearly saw the need to burden the world with its existence, and as such, last-gen Richtofen lives on in our hearts. And I wish I could show you more of it, but unfortunately, because of the fact that Xbox 360 and PS3's stores have been shut down, I can't get the DLC for these. I can't show you Der Eisendrache and I can't show you the Giant because I didn't buy them before the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store shut down for these consoles. But if somebody's got a way, maybe I'll burden myself with trying to do the DE Easter egg on the last-gen consoles and show you all what it looks like. Now, did you play Black Ops 3 for the Xbox 360 and PS3? What are your thoughts on the last-gen console releases and this version of one of the community's favorite zombies experiences of all time? Let me know your thoughts below, and if you like this video, drop me a comment or a like and let me know. That's all I've got for now, and I'll see you in the next one.